Please be aware, I'll be spoiling quite a bit of Albert Odyssey Legend of Eldean in this review, as we will discuss endgame strategy and the final bosses. Otherwise, enjoy the review. The story of Albert Odyssey stretches back to 1993, starting as a tactical RPG on the Super Nintendo starring Albert as he tries to stop the evil wizard Oswald. The game is alright and features a cool Mode 7 overworld, but then a sequel came out in 1994 and did nothing new but pushed the budding RPG series into tactical RPG mediocrity. However, 2 years later, Sunsoft released a more traditional turn-based RPG in the form of Albert Odyssey Legend of Eldean. In 1997, the game was released with an English translation in the West by Working Designs, and for some reason they made items in the game more expensive than in the Japanese version, which I've never quite understood. If I had to describe Albert Odyssey in a single word, I would just say RPG. It's an RPG, that's it. There's no fancy 3D battles, no complicated spell casting or materia or arms or anything. It's just you, your party, and the gradual accumulation of experience, levels, equipping items, and beating down bosses to keep the story moving. I would go so far as to say that this is one of the best examples of a well-executed, simple RPG I've ever played. It's not overly complicated, it has no pretension at being the next huge RPG phenomenon, it's just a nice back-to-basics game. There's a nice rhythm in the game that leads you from town to town with really nicely drawn cinematic sequences punctuating the more exciting milestones in the story, like Rodoria's castle taking off or the vampire's castle. In between these milestones, smaller stories play out, like curing the dragon men or finding treasure on a ghost ship to pay a ship's captain to take you to your next destination, triggering a fight with a nightmarish sea monster called the Flesh Urchin. All these smaller stories play out over the course of the game in order to stitch together what is admittedly an otherwise humdrum fantasy tale about some kind of ancient evil coming back to take over the world. The thing that elevates Albert Odyssey from run-of-the-mill fantasy fare is Working Design's sometimes hilariously funny rewriting of the script. It is crammed with jokes that will make you want to talk to all of the townspeople just to see what they're going to say next. Not all of the jokes land, of course, and I know purists will hate the liberties taken with the script, but for Christ's sake, it's just a video game, lighten up. The battle system is also quite engaging, and although it's simple, the visual flair of the spell casting and the nicely drawn and animated sprites are fun to watch. Some spells like Starduster, which the character Kia learns at level 48, are animated in 3D as well, and look nice enough. Sunsoft found a nice balance in the difficulty of battles up to the first chapter's ending, with Rodoria being relatively simple to breeze through. However, the difficulty slowly creeps up until you hit Krishna in one of the towers surrounding the ancient city of Fargasta. She can suddenly wipe out half of your entire party's HP with Vortex and then proceeds to do this every single turn. Luckily, like most RPGs, the characters all specialize in different things. Pike is a powerful attacker with some offensive spells, while Grizz is pure muscle and also doubles as a great healer, as his healing breath ability affects your entire party. Kia and Ika are magic users, with Ika being more of a monk-like character focusing on buffs and attacking, and Kia focusing on offensive magic like the awesome Starduster and Krakatoa. At the end of the game, you have to fight 7 bosses, 3 of them in a row. If you didn't know this was coming, you don't get to heal or save between the last 3, so I hope you saved a lot of peppermints if you're out of MP. If you're not at least level 55 to 56 before doing the last boss, you're going to struggle, so make sure to run around the towers for a bit doing this, or you're going to get your head kicked in. When you have bosses using Starduster on you multiple times in a row, wiping over 1000 HP off your entire party every turn, you'll want as much defense and extra HP as you can get. I don't know how I feel about this. I understand the reason this happens for story purposes. It's the climatic final confrontation after all, but it's a little bit annoying to have to fight 4 bosses, then another 3 bosses in a row, just to get to a really disappointing ending that basically amounts to Then everyone went home, the end. On the presentation front, I absolutely love the way Albert Odyssey looks. It's nice and familiar without looking cheap and slapped together. The sprites are nicely drawn, well animated, and when special effects need to happen, they look quite nice. There is even an airship you have to use to reach Fargasta at the end of the game, and it's animated in 3D and looks great. Sound is another area where Albert Odyssey excels. Some of the music, like the airship theme, first overworld theme, and some of the incidental music and sound design is just excellent. There isn't much to complain about beyond the lack of spoken dialogue. There is a little bit at the beginning of the game, and I got excited for more of it, but then it's just text boxes after the opening cinema, which is a bit of a shame. So, there isn't much to complain about in Albert Odyssey on Sega Saturn. It's an extremely solid example of a well-designed, classic RPG with no fancy bells and whistles to distract you. That said, if you're a believer in innovation, then there is literally none of it here. Everything Albert Odyssey does is by the numbers on paper, but in action lends it to be an extremely engaging and fun RPG to get you through about 13 to 14 hours of playtime. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and that's nice after playing multiple 30-hour RPGs in recent weeks to play one that's a lot of fun while it lasts. I can't recommend Albert Odyssey Legend of Eldean more highly to Saturn-owning RPG fans.